Welcome to my channel. This is a new day, so we're going to do more music. And I'm going to do 6 requested reactions as I normally try to do. But I'm also adding in another bonus video. And I'm probably going to do that over the next few days because I have a list of things I want to hear. This one is Dax singing Propaganda and featuring Tom MacDonald, which that should be very interesting, I think. Before we get into the video, though, I do want to thank you for coming here and for supporting me. I really, really do appreciate it. I also want to remind you that I always put the artist links in the description of their playlist, so you can support them as well if you want to. But I put the link to the song I'm reacting to in the description of the video. I also put a link in there from Wikipedia if I can find anything appropriate. And I always put the link to the reaction request form so you can request reactions. I have over 3,100 requests in the queue now. So that means that if you make a request today, it's going to be a year and a half before I get to it. You're going to have to be patient. My current viewers and my longtime subscribers are being patient. They have requests from August of last year that I'm just now getting to. So, it's a long list, I admit that, but I will get to every single one, I promise. If you happen to put a request in the comments, though, I'm just going to reply with a link to the form because you have to fill out the form to make requests on my channel. So this is Dax featuring Tom MacDonald and singing Propaganda. Let's see if we got... Nope. No subtitles. Here we go.
Hey, Daryl. You good, bro? You ain't picking up calls, dog. What's wrong, man? Daryl, you good? Hey. Hey, Daryl. Don't lose yourself.
And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda.
Yeah, united we stand, divided we fall. New Year's Eve, they've been dropping the ball. Independent, how we dead in the game. We don't write to the sound of applause. Hidden truth, dotted lines, ain't never signed, stood and remain the boss. In a world that is full of facades, where if you speak, you get nailed to a cross. I won't be silent, I am outspoken. I am the product of pain, so when you see my name, no fame could never break down a brain that is already broken. Every wound is a paid devotion. They fill words as I purge emotion. Scabs hair as I drop hits that bleed light from demonic omens. The system decides we spend, we buy, while most of our time is spent in bed. The dreams we have all stay inside. We sleep and wake and live with regret. The price of life is half the cost. The price of fame could cost your head. If infamy is what you seek and propaganda is
and all
what
I
you
see
spread.
is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda.
But we're dated, indoctrinated. They convince us all that everything we say is racist, and blood will change it, that's what happens. Y'all need balance. Y'all need blacks and whites and lefts and rights to stop the madness. They planned it. It's Trump or Biden, we all been divided by it in the streets. Elections always been rigged, I ain't surprised when somebody cheats. All I see is pentagrams of the propaganda, but our priority's the vaccine. It ain't hard for wolves to find a flock when the sheep are fast asleep. Too many people lack character, too many journalists scaring you, too many pencils attempting to rewrite the Constitution. They probably gonna tear it up. I love the country, but I don't trust the people taking care of us. We went to bed with the American dream. We woke up in Nightmerica.
And all I see is propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda. And all I see is propaganda. Propaganda.
Okay. I try to stay away from politics on my channel, which is kind of interesting because I used to be like 110% into it. I mean, crazy into it. But I finally came to the realization that nothing I said or did was going to change anything unless I spoke the truth about God. And so I just changed. Because that's what you do when you realize you've been going down the wrong path. I really don't want to get into politics, but I'm going to share a story with you because I think it directly relates to this song. Back in, I believe it was 2004, I started a blog on, what's the name of that? Blog something. It's Google's thing. I can't remember. But anyway, I started a blog and I wrote an article about the 2004 election. And I decided that the purpose of my blog was to expose the media, and so I named it Media Lies, which is a double meaning. It's about media lies, but then the media does lie. So, if you get it. So anyway, it wasn't long after I started that blog It wasn't long after I started that blog that I actually wrote an article about an Associated Press release about a comet that hit a small town in the state of Washington in the United States. It was, I was full of vim and vigor back then, and I wanted to show that the media was lying. And so I got to thinking about this article, and I thought, boy, if a meteor hit somewhere in the United States, that would be a devastating event. That would kill some people. And so I started doing some research. Oh, they said that the meteor was the size of a small car. So I got on the internet. I started doing some searching. How big is a meteor that's the size of a small car, and how much damage would it do? And I found out that it would have done a tremendous amount of damage. And so I thought then, well, gosh, that town must be devastated. So just on a lark, I called the Chamber of Commerce in the town. And they answered the phone, which surprised me because I thought they'd be out of phone service. And they said to me, no, there's been no meteor here. So I thought, well, that's really strange. So I went back and read the article again. And they mentioned a professor at the University of Washington who had discussed the impact of the meteor with the AP reporter. So I thought, well, let me call this professor. I look on Washington's website, University of Washington. There is no professor by that name. They just made it up. They just made it up out of clear blue sky. Or they found some guy who said he was a professor, and they didn't even bother to check to see if he really was. It just blew my mind. And the thing about it was there was no political angle to this at all. It was strictly a human interest story. But they got all of it wrong. They got the professor wrong. They got the fact that a meteor hit wrong. They got the fact that the damage that it did wrong, because it couldn't do any damage if it didn't hit. The whole story was bogus. And sure enough, within an hour or two, AP pulled the press release. But you know that when AP releases a press release, papers are going to pick that up all over the United States. And they did, and they printed the article. So it's out there in the ether. You can probably search for it now. Meteor hits Washington State 2004. See what you can find. But I think it was Blogspot was the name of the blogging place. Anyway, that's just me telling you, look, you can't trust the media to tell you the truth. You cannot just assume that what they're telling you is true. You have to check it out for yourself. How you do that, sometimes it can be very difficult. Sometimes it can be really difficult. But other times, not so difficult. That story wasn't that hard for me to track down. It was like maybe 10 or 15 minutes on the phone and on the internet, and I knew the answer. And the answer was, AP just flat out lied. Why? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But they did. So be careful who you trust. Outside of God and His Word, all bets are off. That's my advice to you. Now, I pray for you every day that God will reveal the truth to you and that He will fill your heart with truth and love and peace and joy. And I pray that He will do that for every single person that you love as well. This is the Vietnam Era Vet out.